The comments and statements made within the show are the opinions of the commentators and their guests, have not been evaluated by the FDA, and are in no way attempt to diagnose, treat, mitigate, cure, or prevent any disease or illness. The contents of the show are not to be construed as medical advice. If you have a health condition or health concern, please contact a licensed, qualified healthcare practitioner.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nan.
And I'm Tom, and this is a Supplement Super Sleuth.
That'll be me. And the Herbal Storyteller.
And that definitely would be me. And together, we're going to take a peek behind the curtain of the natural products industry.
We'll be sharing naturals in the news, dispelling lots of myths, interviewing key players in the industry, and highlighting our favorite herbs and supplements.
So with that, let's pull back that curtain and see what's there.
Howdy.
Hey, look at that. It's that time again. And we have our beautiful music playing in the background there. You know what, Nan? I love this music. It makes my morning go so well.
It's so interesting. So I started and it just absolutely perks me right up.
Yeah, and I remember when we were looking for it, like, we got to find just the right piece. It's got to be peppy. It's got to be, and this is it. It's like I'm walking down the sidewalk feeling good, feeling great. Oh, I can't wait.
Get that bass going.
Yeah,
Ding.
And here we go. Ding!
Oh, goodness. All right. That was too fun.
That is. Now.
Well, here we are. We are in episode 25.
I believe, yeah.
Closing out the year. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, we're this is it. This is the last month of 2022, and we basically have made it a year. That's kind of interesting.
It really is, and it's been a really fun year, especially to see how we're growing follower-wise, likes and shares and so on. Thank you, everybody, for your kind attention and your we're really love of what we're talking about.
We're close to 2,000 followers, which may not seem like a lot, but in my world, that's a lot. And we're grateful for each and every one of you. Yeah. And it's been interesting too. And I've learned a lot. This is certainly, I've never done a podcast before in my entire life. Never thought I'd ever do one. And here we are, Tom and I, doing a podcast.
From a farmer's perspective, I'm like, okay, what, a podcast? I take peas, I break them apart, and I podcast the pods. What do I do? I don't know why they call it a podcast.
I know, but it's it's been interesting. I think they always say the cream floats to the top, huh, Tom? And so the naturals in the news floated to the top, and our favorite things floats to the top, and our guest stars, our naturals in the know.
I mean, that's when it gets really interesting. Although I really do like our favorite things segment, and I think that's what we're going to do today more than anything. Yes. Just do our favorite things, because
we're definitely doing that.
Every once in a while, it lets us get on our sort of herbal or supplement soapboxes and talk to you folks about, hey, this stuff is really important.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, we got really good feedback when we did our classes. So when we actually took the naturals in the know and shared our knowledge in a very deep dive manner, we got great feedback on that. Our whole 3-part sleep series has been great success. So we're really grateful that you tune in. We're really grateful that you show up. And we're really interested in what you think and how we can improve and how we can serve you more as our listeners and our followers. We really want to tailor these, not just, yes, we're definitely going to talk about what we're interested in and what we utilize in our, in the clinic here, and what, and what we use in our own personal lives and what we share with friends and family that gets great results. We definitely are going to share that, but we also want to know what you're interested in knowing about, or if you have questions too. So please, let us know through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and also through the podcast itself, through the app. So thank you for listening and keep tuning in because we're going to keep going. We're committed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So today's Naturals in the News, which you've been waiting for. Tom's going to start off with some more information about omega-3 fatty acids.
And that's what's really amazing, Nan, is that, we all hear a lot, especially you and I being in the industry that we're in, about the benefits of omega-3 fatty acids. And most people understand that, well, that's fish oil. And yeah, okay, maybe I don't like fish oil. I don't like the smell, or I don't like this or that. And gee, how good can it be? I take a little tiny bit of fish oil in the morning, and that's supposed to help me. Guess what? It really does. So we've got a really great study here that actually comes to us from the American Academy of Neurology, of all things. And that's, obviously neurology is the study of the brain, neuroscience. And what they found is that, especially, this is interesting, it's fascinating, that supplementing with omega-3 fatty acids, and the primary source for most of us is going to be coming from cold water fish. So, things like salmon and sardines and, really deep cod, things like that, cod liver oil and so on, that are supplements that give us an omega-3s. And there are plenty of plant sources of omega-3s as well.
There definitely are.
And so, you don't have to be a fish eater. If you're a vegetarian or a vegan, there are some wonderful sources of omega-3s. But what fascinated me about this study is the fact that they found that if you began adding omega-3s, even in midlife, even if you hadn't done anything before you reached your 40s and you're looking at, maybe I should do something about fish oils. It's like,
my brain.
Yeah, really. They did a study, and the study came out of University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio. And, basically, to quote something, it's like, basically, if people could improve their cognitive resilience and potentially ward off dementia with some simple changes to their diet, this is a quote, that could have a large impact on public health. Even better, the study that I'm talking about suggests that even modest consumption of omega-3s may be enough to preserve brain function. And this is that's in line with the current American Heart Association dietary guidelines, that they want you to consume at least 2 servings of fish per week that have those cold water fish that have those high omega-3 fatty acids. Now, again,
we have a lot of them off the coast of Massachusetts.
Absolutely. You got some nice, deep, cold water there.
We definitely do.
What they did is they took 2 groups. They had a placebo group, and they had a group getting the omega-3s. And it was a fairly large study because it involved 2,100 people. So that's a decent sized study. Average age of 46. Who did not have any kind of dementia or stroke, which is kind of an interesting statement in and of itself, that they're scanning a group of people at age 46 to make sure they haven't already had dementia or stroke. So it's kind of like, woo. And they measured their levels of omega-3 fatty acids, and they took tests to gauge their thinking skills and so on. And they did scans this is interesting to me too, scans that measured their brain volume to look at, what part of the brain, whether it's going to grow.
Starts to shrink, because your brain actually does structurally start to shrink as you age.
That's why, when you get really old and you shake your head.
Brain.
That's right.
Your brain rattles around in there.
Exactly. You shake your head and things are rattling and you're like, what's going on? It's like my brain has shrunk. Oh my God. So basically, what they did is they looked at these different groups, and then they gave them the omega-3 fatty acids over a specific period of time. And they looked at they adjusted everything to make sure that it was all like a fair comparison. And they found that, that the hippocampus, which is the area of our brain that plays a very important role in our memory, actually grew a little bit in the group that was getting the omega-3 fatty acids. So it was actually improving their ability to remember and to put things together. Now, what they said is they wanted to make sure that people understood that it's not absolute conclusive proof that eating omega-3 fatty acids is going to preserve brain function, but it shows a strong association. And because it shows that strong association, it's it's something to take into consideration when you're looking at your diet. I mean, it's a very easy addition to your
definitely.
diet. And
Yeah, and for those who don't want to eat fish or take cod liver oil or any of that, there's algae. So, really reputable manufacturers now can extract omegas out of algae,
yeah, and
which is
the really crazy thing
it's
about
really
that
good.
is that's where
It's really
most of the
clean.
fish are getting their.
That's where they get their
They get it.
omegas
So
in the
it's like,
first
you're
place.
going to the source. It's like, okay, I'm getting rid of the
Right.
middleman. I don't have to kill anybody to get it.
But yeah, if you really like fish and it's a part of your diet,
Yeah.
just focus on those deep water cold fish.
Absolutely.
And twice a week is really good. That's a good average. It doesn't mean every day. You don't have to eat it every day, but twice a week, I think you can hit that, right?
Yeah, it's like not too bad. 2 days out of 7. It's like, wow, maybe
Right.
I could do that.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on to the next naturals in the news. We saw a headline that said corn leaf extract supports sleep quality, according to a recent study in Nutritional Outlook. Well, I have to say something about this because we just finished a big sleep, 3-part sleep, naturals in the know.
Yeah.
So you can always go back to that. But, corn, so corn leaf, the leaf of a corn, really they call, Z maize, is been used by herbalists for a long time. So we use the leaf, we use the tassel on the top. Yeah. The tassel is a really important part of herbal medicine. And we actually use the corn itself too as food, as medicine as food. So this was a really interesting study that I wanted to share with everyone. So this recent study, which was performed by Talbot SM et al. And it was published in the Journal of Medicinal Food on September 30th, 2022, and entitled "A Standardized Corn Leaf Extract for Improving Sleep Quality and Mood State." That particular study has really reached kind of a big sharing online. Yeah. So this standardized Z maize, which is corn or corn leaf, Mazinol, from Tacoma, Washington, was tested on sleep quality and overall well-being in a double-blinded, placebo-controlled clinical trial. There were 45
really
subjects.
Like those? Yes, we do.
We do. That's pretty much the gold standard. There were 45 subjects, and they were given 250 milligrams a day, 500 milligrams a day, or a placebo before bedtime daily for 4 weeks. And daily sleep quality was monitored via a fitness tracker, while the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index was used to assess sleep quality and efficiency, more subjective versus objective. Researchers also measured salivary cortisol levels for stress and used the profile of mood states, or the POMS, to assess general well-being. Subjects taking the extract saw a statistically significant dose-correlated reduction in salivary cortisol, up to 36%, an increase in deep sleep time, up to 30 minutes, which is exceptional, and increased total sleep time up to 10%, which could add another 30 minutes to an hour onto your 7 to 8 hour sleep. If you're only getting 6, you might add another 30 minutes on, or if you're only getting 7, you might add another 30 minutes on, and an improvement in sleep quality. So 49% of the respondents reported that they just felt like they got better sleep, and enhanced profile of mood states. So up to 58% of the respondents said that their mood improved compared to the placebo group. Supplementation with corn leaf extract showed a 7-fold increase in deep sleep time and a 10-fold increase in sleep quality improvement, which I know people struggle with sleep. Even young people today struggle with sleep. That's because they're on their phones or their computer till wee hours of the morning. So just put the computer and the phones away, people. Go to sleep.
Well, yeah, and it might also help to actually, if you're gonna have the phone, anywhere, have it farther away from your bed so that you're not getting all of those, microwaves literally while your phone
Yeah.
is charging, because it's
Right.
bringing in all that stuff. Put it in the other room. You don't really need to have a phone.
You don't need it unless you have, someone that a child or a senior that, they might need to get a hold of you. But I will say this is that improvement in sleep. So improving the sleep that you're already getting is really important too. So if you get 7 hours of sleep, but it's poor sleep quality, improving those 7 hours really can make a difference in your mood,
Yep.
in your functionality during the day. So yes, so we like this. Z-Maze, we love as herbalists, we've known about using corn leaf for a long period of time, but to see that gold standard, double-blinded clinical trial really makes me happy. And I loved sharing that. Okay, Tom,
All right.
next headline.
Well, the next headline is very interesting. And for those of you, especially because we have a very diverse audience. And so I know we have a lot of younger people in the audience, and they're very big on their acai power bowls and so on. This is a study about acai and how the dietary anthocyanins, which are the deep purple colors that acai is so famous for, are linked to better artery health. And it's a study that's actually we found in the NutraIngredients. And you can go to nutraingredients.com and you can look at some of because they have some beautiful information out there. And this is basically the gist of the study is dietary intake of anthocyanin-rich acai berries may improve what's called arterial stiffness, especially in overweight and obese people, says a new study from Brazil. Now, you don't have to be overweight or obese to understand that as we get older, our arteries tend to harden, is what they call. They get stiffer. And that stiffness then changes what's called the pulse wave velocity of the the way they're able to continue to push, because this is arterial now, not
Right.
venous. So arterial is what's pushing our blood out from our heart. And it has these little palpitations along the arterial pathway that keep the blood moving in the right direction. And so the pulse wave velocity is the ability of those arteries to keep undulating like that and moving the blood through the arteries. And what they found is that there's evidence that shows that pulse wave velocity is an indicator, it's a predictor of adverse cardiovascular events later on in life. Now, this is coming out of the Institute of Cardiology of Rio Grande do Sul down in Brazil. And there's some wonderful research going on in Brazil around cardiovascular health right now. And basically what they said is that there is an increase in risk as your pulse wave velocity goes up. So what they found is that it was by taking acai berries, and they gave these to a fairly large group of people, they found that it was lowering that risk factor, that significant risk factor. And it's just a very simple thing to do. I mean, people love acai bowls for breakfast.
Delicious.
My daughter
oh my
was
God.
crazy about acai bowls, still is. And she's now in her 40s, 43, and just about to have a baby. But really and truly, the acai berries are amazing, because in the Amazon, you keep in mind the Amazon floods every year and literally floods for miles and miles. The jungle is underwater. And
So
if
cool.
you're living around that area, you're literally just about living on floating islands if you're, if you're part of the jungle that flooded. And the thing that they had, because of the way the tree grows and everything, is they had acai berries as a survival food. Literally, it was what they were eating, sometimes the only thing they were eating, plus maybe whatever fish they could get out of the river for weeks, maybe even months. So it became a very staple part of the Indian tribe's diet down there. And as it was discovered how strongly antioxidant and anti-inflammatory it is and so on, it is
delicious.
Yeah, and delicious.
It's so good.
It doesn't have to be all just good. It can actually taste good too.
It just tastes good.
But after 12 weeks of intervention, the researchers found that all of the participants experienced reductions in that peripheral vascular resistance and body weight. Literally, they were losing body weight as well as having healthier circulatory effectiveness. So literally just wanted to bring this out, do another shout out about acai. This is coming from Phytotherapy Research. And it was published online. It's ahead of being printed, but it was published online as dietary intake of anthocyanins improves arterial stiffness, but not endothelial function in volunteers with excessive weight. And it's a randomized clinical trial.
Yeah, and I do want to say, Tom, that I want to continue with the next headline, because those anthocyanidins or proanthocyanidins, those pigments that we find in fruits and berries especially, are extraordinary. I have a headline here that kind of follows up what Tom was just talking about. Following a Mediterranean diet fortified with polyphenols reduces visceral adiposity. And this was published October 24th, 2022 in Olive Oil Times. And data from studying over 294 subjects over the course of 18 months show that a group following a Mediterranean-style diet supplemented by polyphenols experience a substantially greater reduction in abdominal fat compared to a group following just a Mediterranean diet
The hardest
alone. And
fat
what
to
was
get rid
really
of.
interesting, right, it is the hardest fat to get rid of once you get it, if you get it, is around your waist and your belly. And it's really interesting because polyphenols, which are that deep purple or blue, they're dark blue, or kind of a deep crimson red. You'll see like those kinds of pigments that we often see in berries, blueberries, blackberries, acai, and all of those beautiful colors that are really deep crimson to purple, all the way from blue to purple. Those particular classes of compounds are really crucial for our overall health, and the kind of the more toxic our world gets from all different levels, whether it's electromagnetic or whether it's air quality or water quality or just, things that we put on our body, the sun, all these things that cause a lot of oxidation in our body. Getting these particular kinds of foods that have the polyphenols are really important. Visceral obesity is definitely a factor for multiple conditions, especially cardiovascular disease and metabolic syndrome. And a lot of people know that it can be like a pre-diabetes situation. It can also be contributory to developing breast cancer and colorectal cancer and other kinds of issues. But oftentimes that Mediterranean diet is kind of a diet that's recommended by professionals in Western medicine and also in Eastern medicine. But the polyphenols actually are important to make sure you get into that Mediterranean type diet, and that will affect that adiposity that you have around your middle. The study was published in BMC Medicine and explored the impacts of what was defined as a green Mediterranean diet fortified by polyphenols. So lower in red and processed meat, higher in fish and chicken, higher in leafy greens, and focusing on the berries that are blue, purple, and deep, deep red. And that was really the kind of the parameters for the diet. Over the 18 months, the researchers followed nearly 300 subjects with an average body mass index of 31.2 and an age of 51 and older, and 80% of them were men. So again, women are left out. It's a little bit harder for women to lose that weight, but the subjects divided into 3 groups. The first followed healthy dietary guidelines. The second adhered to a very traditional Mediterranean diet, and the third followed this special Mediterranean diet with the polyphenols added. The 3 groups were actually calorie restricted as well, so you have to keep that in mind. The subjects were asked to exercise. They were asked to add 28 grams of walnuts. So if you have a walnut allergy, can't do that. They also had to consume 3 to 4 cups of green tea daily if they were in the Mediterranean polyphenol group. And also they had to take a wolfia shake. And wolffia is a berry. It has a high in polyphenols. There's gooseberry. There's so many different berries that are high in polyphenols, but they observed that not only did they lose weight, but they lost weight, especially around the middle. So you can go and take a look at the parameters of this particular special polyphenol Mediterranean diet if you'd like. We'll have that posted in our with our additional information with our Supplement Super Sleuth and Herbal Storyteller podcast. So you can click on the link there. We'll make sure that you can read the parameters just in case you're interested in doing that.
Yeah. And then to finish it all off, because obviously where we've been going here is some really interesting little extracts or specialized foods. And one of the things that I've always loved is the idea of pycnogenol. Now, pycnogenol is just another name for what they call French maritime pine bark. And it had a very interesting, history, nascence, if you will, that dated all the way back to when the French explorers were coming and exploring the coast of the United States, what was then America, not the United States or anything like that, just the new, quote unquote, the new world. And having crossed the ocean with no, this was back when scurvy was killing people, with lack of vitamin C and everything, people were just bleeding spontaneously and bleeding out because of their vasculature was terrible. And they started talking to the Native Americans that they were encountering in the New World. And they learned about actually cooking pine bark down in a tea and drinking that. And it was so protective of their veins that they didn't have those kind of problems. This is just a real quick synopsis of that, because it's a beautiful Jacques Mascalier and studies on pycnogenol and pine bark.
Yeah.
And so the extract, if you will, they named pycnogenol, and it has a massive, wonderful support of cardiovascular and circulatory function. But this new study is kind of fascinating for me, because what they've got here, and this is from Whole Foods Magazine, and it's literally the October 24th of 2022, so very, very recent. Nice article by Maggie Jaka, and basically, and I hope I didn't butcher your name, Maggie. It could be Jaqua, which might be more appropriate. Anyway, it says pycnogenol may help manage ADHD without the side effects associated with meds. So it was a study that was done on ADHD children aged between 6 and 12. And, literally what they found is that it may be very effective at managing hyperactivity and impulsivity in children. And what they did is they compared it to the drug of choice, which is called, what is it called? It's called methylphenidate. And methylphenidate is what, evidently the drug, it's a stimulant.
It's a stimulant.
Just like Ritalin.
Right.
And they're giving that to children, to help them manage their ADD, ADHD, especially ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And so they did this study for 5 and 10 weeks. They looked at them for 5 and 10 weeks. And after 10 weeks, they found that the ADHD, rating scale, there was a general decrease on all of the different parameters that they were measuring for the pycnogenol. Now, it wasn't as significant a decrease as it was using the drug. But here's the really beautiful part about it, because all of us understand that, especially herbalists and people who are into supplements understand that the farther you remove something from a plant and concentrate it and make it so potent, your body doesn't know what to do with it. And we end up getting side effects. So children in the study, here's the quote, children in the study who supplemented with the pharmaceutical brand showed greater improvement than with the pycnogenol in ADHD behavior, but they experienced up to 5 times more adverse events than those who supplemented with the pycnogenol. Now, specifically, according to the press release, loss of appetite, unwanted weight loss was seen when they were taking that pharmaceutical, but not with the pycnogenol. So this is a really good thing for parents who have children who do have ADHD. and potentially being an adult who managed to survive ADHD and go on to becoming an adult with ADHD. I can specifically speak to the fact that I love the idea of, if I had children that I needed to be medicating or helping, really, literally helping with their ADHD, I would love the idea of using pycnogenol as opposed to a pharmaceutical, just because of the fact that there are so many potential unwanted adverse events. So just a great study. Like I said, you can go out to Whole Foods Magazine, the October 23rd issue, and you can find this study, and it suggests a really promising natural path option for children, and especially in their formative years, so that you're not doing something that's going to, later on you're going to regret having done. And that's not to say that that's going to happen, but just saying.
That's promising. Mm-hmm. It really is. And for the last naturals in the news, we have one more headline that I really want to share. Again, following up with our sleep naturals in the know. This particular study is entitled "Hormone Changes: The Star of Every Stage in Women's Sleep." And it was posted in Medscape Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022, which is, of course, today. The original research was published in October 14th, 2022, and it was done in Madrid, Spain. And because of hormone changes that occur throughout the lives of women, they experience sleep problems that differ significantly from those experienced by men. Finally, somebody is going to come out and say that, right? 75 to 84% of pregnant women don't sleep well during their third trimester, right? And 80% of women in menopause have symptoms that prevent them from getting a good night's sleep. So for those seeking to kind of create what we call a precision medicine approach, or to, think outside the box, we have to really figure out and identify the relationship between the sleep disruption and sex-related phenotypes, or sex reproductive hormone issues that are impacting sleep, versus with men, it could just be breathing, or, the reasons why people don't sleep, as we covered in our Naturals in the Know sleep three-part episodes, the reasons why people don't sleep are really far-reaching. So reproductive hormones like estrogen and progesterone play a very meaningful role in brain function, but also outside of physiological process, it's related to and an impact on circadian rhythms. And so we have to take that into consideration when we're looking at why women don't sleep. And finally, researchers are understanding that studying sleep disturbances with women have to be looked at completely differently, and that addition of estrogen, progesterone, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, all those hormones that are, really related to how a woman cycles and her rhythm, are really important to take a look at, because they profoundly affect sleep patterns all throughout the life of the woman. So oftentimes women struggle with sleep starting from the time they start menstruation. So it's nice to see that researchers are going to follow up with that. And I'm particularly happy with the nod towards the scientific research channels to understand the difference between how our hormones impact our sleep. So more on that in the future. And we are finished with our naturals in
the news.
In the news.
All the news that's fit to print.
Really, seriously. So.
And you know what this is.
Yeah. And so moving on to our favorite things. We have some we have some really interesting herbs to talk about today. We're going to just focus on herbs today, which makes us both pretty happy. I mean, I love talking about nutraceuticals, but
Nancy is really an herb girl, and her heart of
I
hearts.
love herbs too. So we are focusing on herbs that are really appropriate for the season. And but before we do that, Tom's going to talk a little bit about Shen, Shen, what is Shen, and why this time of year, when there's little light in the sky, right? And the days get shorter and we have less light, in our lives, and how that can actually affect our overall being. And then kind of what to look for in yourself if you think there's Shen disturbance or issues with Shen. So he's going to give a little tutorial on that, and I'll
talk
pipe
about
in
an
here
herb
and there.
directly related to the
relates to that, and then so he's going to talk about Albizzia, and I'm going to talk about Hawthorne. So Tom, take it away.
All right. So as Nancy said, before we talk about one of my favorite herbs, what I want to do is I want to sort of prepare the ground, if you will, by talking about the concept from traditional Chinese herbalism, or TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. And that's the concept that in our body, in our existence, we have what are called the three treasures. Those treasures are qi, or the energy, jing, which is our absolutely core energy that we inherit from our parents and that we get from our food and from the air we breathe and so on. And then those two go into building what's called Shen. And each one is responsible in its own way for what we call life. We tend to think, okay, I'm just out here living. But what the ancient Chinese, especially the Taoists, who were very contemplative and wanted very much to do something that all of us should be thinking more about lately, and that's living in harmony with nature rather than trying to just extract everything we can out of nature and then moving on to the next undisturbed, for the moment, source of more extractables. So basically, really Shen refers to the idea of, because those three elements are called qi and jing and Shen refers to the idea of the spirit. What we, the mind or the spirit, and it's considered to reside in the heart, which is why we're talking about it, because the herb that Nancy's going to cover and the one that I want to cover have a lot to do with the heart, but in different ways. It's really fascinating. But rather than paraphrase, this whole idea, what I want to do is I want to introduce you to two of my herbal teachers and teachers who have been part of Nan's herbal background, definitely as well. And I want to read to you what they have to say about Shen, because I think it's very important to understand the basis of what this idea of spirit that lives in the heart is, with regards to what can we do and to help ourselves. So the first is from a very dear friend and teacher, and his name is Ron Teagarden. And he is a Chinese tonic herbal expert. He's been doing Chinese tonic herbs for decades now. I mean, he used to make tonic formulas for very popular music groups and athletes and so on. His company is called Dragon Herbs. It's down in Santa Monica, California. You can go to dragonherbs.com. And this is from his really absolutely great resource book, Ancient Wisdom of Chinese Tonic Herbs. It's a real classic. In fact, if you can see the picture, there it is right there. It's dog-eared, it's marked, it's got all kinds of stuff in it. And what he has to say, I'm going to get this where I can actually read it and not be turning my head. Shen is the third treasure. So it's considered to be a treasure. And it is our spirit. It may also be translated as our higher consciousness. It's ultimately the most important of the three treasures because it reflects our higher nature as human beings. Chinese masters say that Shen is the all-embracing love that resides in our heart, and a primary organ system. So that Shen is expressed as love, compassion, kindness, generosity, acceptance, forgiveness, and tolerance. It manifests as our wisdom and our ability to see all sides of all issues, and our ability to rise above the world of right and wrong, good and bad, yours and mine, high and low, and so on. Shen is our higher knowledge that everything is all part of the same one. And even though nature manifests dualistically and cyclically, often obscuring our vision and creating illusion, Shen is there to remind us that we're all part of the same whole. So Shen manifests not only as our love and compassion, but also as our mental and our intuitive energy. Then he has a nice quote from a Taoist sage that when the shoe fits, the foot is forgotten. When the belt fits, the belly is forgotten. Now, when the heart, Shen, is right, for and against are forgotten. And that's a pretty interesting statement, that for and against are forgotten. So we have in our country right now just some, and all over the world for that matter, a lot of for and against going on. I mean, I'm sure all of you might agree with that there's, we turn on the news waves, we turn on the internet, and all we hear is I'm for this and I'm against that. And I'm for that and I'm against this. And what it's doing is it's having a profound effect on our hearts. Okay, so those who seek true happiness must achieve balance in their lives. Imbalance is the source of stress that distracts Shen's attention away from its higher path. But when there's balance and harmony in one's life, then the heart or the Shen has an opportunity to develop and attain a state of enlightened, all-embracing acceptance of things as they really are. Now, that's really kind of amazing to me to think of the fact that there is this connection between the heart and our total worldview, and that it can actually be nurtured. It can actually be taken care of. So the next book I want to just real quickly again, because these two men in my life have been absolutely amazing, not only as friends, but as mentors and teachers. Their books are fantastic. This second one is my very dear friend and mentor, and he's the head of the East-West School of Herbal Studies. And you can find that at eastwest.org. I believe it's eastwest.org. And that's Dr. Michael Tierra and his book. This is called The Chinese Traditional Herbal Medicine. For his students, we effectively call it Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Because Obi-Wan, because this is such a compendium of amazing knowledge. And his school is really phenomenal. He and his wife, Leslie, are just amazing teachers. Nancy actually teaches for this school. And it is, it's a wonderful, wonderful school. So
mine are behind me.
Right.
Somewhere in here.
So Michael says Shen refers to the overall spirit and the mental faculties of an individual. As spirit, it encompasses a wide range of mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects. Mentally, it relates to one's capacity to form ideas. Emotionally, Shen is the spark of interest and enthusiasm that's infectiously communicated to others, signaling innate vitality and flourishing life. Spiritually, it's the dynamic faith, vitality, and force of the human personality that seemingly is able to surmount all obstacles and make things happen. So Shen resides in the heart, and as one might imagine, it encompasses more than physical heart functions. Folk wisdom of all countries attaches great emotional significance to the heart as the seat of the emotions. In popular jargon, we have terms such as heartfelt gratitude or loving heart, so that the heart itself is drawn as a symbol of goodness and love. So fortunately, the heart, as described in traditional Chinese medicine as the home of Shen, can neither be bypassed nor transplanted as we do with, mechanically in the West. In the psycho-spiritual aspect of the traditional Chinese, in heart may lie the real cause for so much heart disease in Western countries. Basically, that disconnection with the spirit, that disconnection with our essence in the heart. And as the heart rules the mind, Shen influences our capacity to think clearly, to behave appropriately, to discriminate, to be responsive, to speak coherently, and to experience happiness and profound joy. The spiritual aspects of Shen influence that of all the organs, especially the yin or the receptive transformative organs. It really is the fundamental substance or quality of human existence. It does have a material quality that's very much a part of the body, and the origin of the Shen is similar to that Jing, or that something that is transmitted to us from our parents. So it's very much what was the attitude, what were the mental feelings of our parents during conception and during gestation with the mother. Now, when Shen is weak, spirit and the mental capacities decline. There may be muddled thinking, forgetfulness, insomnia, lack of vitality, depression, lack of interest in life, unhappiness, confused speech, or excessive dreaming. I'm going to tell you, sometimes overworking can be so disturbing to the Shen, piling more and more on to do, or adding so many areas of stress. Oh my God, the gas prices are going up. Oh my God, the food prices are going up. Oh my God, how am I going to find a place to live? What am I going to do about a job? They're just, they're downsizing my industry because they're going to, computerization or robots. All of those things, the war in not even Afghanistan anymore. Now it's the war in Ukraine. Some war going on. All of those can disturb the Shen. And when we just read, literally it is something that we can address. And the reason I'm doing this is because the herb I want to talk about is a beautiful Shen tonic. So now another thing that's really, really interesting is that one of the secrets to enhancing Shen, which Ron states very beautifully in his book, is giving. Just giving to others and sharing rather than hoarding, rather than saying, okay, I need to get mine and the heck with all of the rest of you. I need
And
to get
that's
mine.
perfect for this time of year.
And that exactly
Podcast.
and here's the other thing, which is really
Which
interesting.
is why we chose it.
Shen is fostered by tonifying heart, blood, and qi, strengthening the kidneys, life gate fire, and keeping heat, coldness, and fluids in balance in body. So there's that balance again. We need balance in our lives. Now, other methods include counseling, play, holidays, and holidays are opposed to the idea of vacation, because literally the key word in vacation is to vacate. Just getting out of Dodge and going someplace else. That's the idea of a vacation, whereas a holiday implies a holy day. Very, very different. So prayer, meditation, laughter therapy, living a fulfilling life path, being surrounded by loved ones, which is very especially true of this season. They're all really great ways to enhance your Shen and to feed that spirit. And also there are times when it's very necessary just to be quiet and just to have a little bit of solitude and a little bit of meditation. So that leads me to my favorite herb, which is Albizzia julbrizin. Now, Albizzia also in Chinese medicine is called Hawthorne, and they use Hawthorne pea, which is the bark. Pea is the bark of the Albizzia tree or the mimosa tree, and we'll talk about that in a second, and Hawthorne hua. Now, hua means flower. And interestingly enough, there's a legend in Chinese herbal medicine. There's always stories and legends around almost every single herb because it was how they remembered the use of the herb. And there was a story that there was a goddess in the heavens who had 7 daughters. And each of these daughters was named after a particular flower. And they found that because they were named after a flower, they had beautiful, radiant energy all of their lives. They did not seem to age, and they were so grateful to the goddess that they wanted to know, what can we do, Mother, to pay you back for these blessings that you've given us? And their mother said, you can go to the Earth planet and you can make sure that these flowers stay abundant, because they become so helpful for everybody. And one of those flowers was the Albizzia, or the mimosa tree. And it was said that this flower especially engendered love and gratefulness and happiness for family. And so it was planted very often in the courtyards or villages of people in China, because it engendered that feeling of happiness and togetherness. So the interesting thing is, here in this country and in many countries, mimosa is Nancy and I talk about this often, and a lot of herbalists talk about this, that herbs sometimes tend to manifest themselves in areas where they're really needed.
They do. I absolutely do.
and so it was not without surprise that when, Hurricane Katrina, for instance, that came through and totally wrecked New Orleans, Albizzia, or mimosa, which is considered to be an invasive species in the South, but yet it was flowering and blooming all over. And why is that important? Because the main thing about Albizzia julbrizin is the fact that it elevates the spirit. It takes us out of the feelings of extreme loss and sadness and sorrow. So it's very often used in traditional Chinese medicine for people who have lost a love. And that doesn't mean necessarily breakup of a relationship. It can also mean a death in the family. It can mean even the loss of a pet. Anything that has torn your heart apart because suddenly you're without this object, this person, this source of love that was coming back to you, and you feel totally disconnected. And I've seen Albizzia, the company that I used to work for, which was Planetary Herbals. That's Michael and Leslie Tierra's herbal line. They used to have it. Unfortunately, I don't think they're making it anymore, but you can find Albizzia from wonderful companies like Herb Farm. Albizzia,
Standard Process has
Standard
really
Process
good
has an
Albizzia.
Albizzia, and there are some other Chinese. You can go to Chinatown and you can get really nice Albizzia products too. These products are something that I have seen work so amazingly that it's almost miraculous. I was basically talking to a sales rep once who, when I was representing Planetary Herbals, and I'd just gone to her territory. She was brand new. She was so nervous about the fact that the trainer was here and she was going to have to perform well and everything. And as often happens in your life, she was also in the process of moving in with her boyfriend. She had been moving all of her stuff across town from her house to her boyfriend's house and so on, and was broadsided in an intersection. She wasn't hurt, but her car and most of what was in the car was completely destroyed. So in order to take care of me, rather than canceling, in order to take care of me, she rented a car. And so now she's okay. At least I'm going to be able to be with Tom, and I'm going to take him around town and do my job. And then she gets an email from her mom saying, "I'm so happy. I've never met your boyfriend. I'm kind of happy that you're moving in with him. I'm coming out. I'm going to visit you. And it's the same week that I'm going to be there." So she's got her mother coming to be introduced to her now live-in boyfriend. And she's got a wrecked car, and she's a brand new job, and she's supposed to take care of me. And she was an absolute mess. And we went in, and we had just introduced the product, which we called Albizzia Calm. And I was doing training on it in some beautiful herb stores in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And afterwards, we're sitting in the car, and she said, "Does it really work that well?" And I said, "Well, here, try some." I had some with me. She took some, and literally I watched her whole countenance change from, tight and distorted and just really worried and so on to just, relaxed. And she said, "You know what? What you've been telling me is right. It's all going to pass. It's okay. Everything is great. This is not a big deal." And she just let out this big, deep breath like, wow. And now, will it work like that for everybody? Everybody's different. So I don't know. But I know that it works like that for me. I know that it worked like that for her. And I know that Michael introduced Albizzia and its uses like this into the herbal world here in the United States several years ago, probably a couple of decades ago now almost. And it's become a regular staple, especially in states where it grows. So, you can pick the Albizzia flowers, Heiwan P or Hua, Heiwan Hua. And then in the wintertime, when the tree's not so active, you can cut off some branches and peel off the bark and use the bark and make a tincture out of it. And there are many ways to do it. I've seen people make what's called a jun, where they use green tea instead of black tea, and they are fermenting that along with the Albizzia blossoms and a little bit of sugar. And what it does is it comes out to be this beautiful pinkish, almost like a regular kombucha, pinkish color that's just beautiful, has a wonderful taste and a beautiful aroma. So many different ways that Albizzia can be used, but I just wanted to give it a shout out because it is one of those herbs that you don't, it's like the old Joni Mitchell song, you don't know what you got until it's gone. And then all of a sudden you're kind of realizing, why am I feeling so out of sorts? And then you realize, wow, my Shen is disturbed. I'm working too hard. Right. I'm too involved. I'm too stuck. And that's when Albizzia is like, pull that out of your medicine chest and say, okay, friend, here we go again. Let's get back into shape. So there's my
it's such a great
favorite deal.
It's such a, oh my God, it's such a favorite because, it's just, it really delivers. I mean, it tingles on the tongue. So I'm going to warn you, if you go and you get an alcohol extract of it, you'll get a little tingle on the tongue. But that's really a sign of its ability to kind of, it's there's an effervescence in your Shen, in your heart. It kind of lifts the spirit by kind of, tickling the heart a little bit. And it's such a lovely plant. I love it. It's in my I literally have a gallon of it in my office, because I never know. I mean, it could be anyone could walk in,
Yeah,
and
and
it's pretty
it's
obvious.
very safe. It's the only
Yeah, really
contraindication,
safe.
just to put it out there, is that if you are pregnant or trying to get
Yeah,
pregnant, you
pregnant,
don't
you
want to
don't
use it,
take it.
and that's just
No.
coming from a traditional observation. It's not necessarily from actual clinical testing, but from traditional uses in traditional Chinese medicine. They say it's contraindicated if you are pregnant or trying to get pregnant.
Right.
But
And
it's just a beautiful.
and an herb that I actually often combine with in a dui jiao, which is dui jiao is like two herbs that come together, and they are, way more than
Yeah.
they are on their own, and that's hawthorn or crataegus. And um, hawthorn, in both the east and the west, has both been used as food and as medicine. So they use the fruit, and you can make jelly out of it. It's delicious. It's another one of those dark crimson, berries that has a lot of polyphenols in it, and POCs, which we're going to talk about. But so Albizzia and hawthorn marry beautifully. And a dui jiao is a concept in herbalism where the two herbs are married together often, and they're just so much more than the sum. They're the sum of them is so much more than using them on their
Yeah,
own. So
the old saying is the sum is greater than the whole is greater than
why
the sum of the
the
parts.
whole is of the sum of the parts? Why couldn't I not get that out of my head this morning? Anyway, so hawthorn, we use more than just the berry with hawthorn. We use the flower, we use the leaf, and we use the fruit, depending upon what the emphasis is. It's been used in traditional medicine as a heart remedy, especially the leaf and the twigs of the hawthorn tree have often been used for straight up heart medicine,
Yep.
and the fruit has been used as food and also as kind of a digestive. It has some bitter qualities to it, or sour qualities to it. Hawthorn berry, or crataegus, is also known as shanza in traditional Chinese medicine. They use the fruit in TCM, and we use other parts here in the West as for more of that cardiotonic kind of piece. In traditional Chinese medicine, so I've got the same book Tom does today. The shanza, or the berry of hawthorn, is sour, sweet, and slightly warm. It affects the heart, the liver, the stomach, and the spleen, which are all, the digestive organs supporting the heart, keeping the blood that goes to the heart clean, the blood that goes to the heart moving, right? It's so great. It's used for digestive conditions. When you feel really stuck around the middle, hawthorn berry is great. That's why it was used as a jam or a jelly, is to
It's
help
called
with a
digestive stasis,
digestion.
right? That stasis,
Right,
that like it's not moving.
right.
And interestingly enough, at one point, Nancy and I went with the East-West School of Herbal Studies, under the graciousness of Michael and Leslie Tierra, to China, and we did a whole tour of China. And when we would go to eat dinner, at the end of the dinner, they would bring out a little bowl of these beautiful candied hawthorn berries to
Hawthorn
help you
berries,
with
yeah,
your digestion.
with your digestion. They help you to digest fat. Um, so the berry is really an incredible digestive. The shrub of the hawthorn grows in woods and thickets throughout Europe and Central and Northern Asia. It grows very easily in the United States. And here in the United States, as a Western herb, the leaf was really used as a cardiotonic. In Germany, hawthorn is called Weifthorn, and in France it's referred to as l'épine noble, the noble thorn, because it was actually, I'm going to say this. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this is historically accurate when I was really studying hawthorn, is that the crown of thorns around Jesus Christ's head were Hawthorne
Mm-hmm.
thorns. The Hawthorne bush has thorns, as a lot of delicious buried um, uh, bushes have a protective factor, and Hawthorne has thorns. So I do want to talk about the active compounds of Hawthorne. The leaves, the blossoms, and the berries all contain active constituents. They have flavonoids, catechins. Catechins, we find those in teas, right? Triterpenes, saponins, amines, and these really cool things that we've been talking about in this episode pretty much all morning are what we call anthocyanidins. And in the case of Hawthorne, they're called OPCs, or proanthocyanidins. They're oligomeric. That's just a chemistry term. So these OPCs are primary cardiovascular protective constituents in this plant of Hawthorne. It is really it's a boon for us. And when you marry Hawthorne with Albizzia, you get the Shen and the emotional kind of elevation and kind of modulation and balancing, and then you get the structural heart balancing cardiotonic of Hawthorne, and it's an extraordinary pair. I mean, talk about like, wow, right? The OPCs that are concentrated in the leaves of Hawthorne and the flowers are responsible for providing pigment, as well as those berries have that really deep crimson pigment, but the leaves also, when you extract them, they also have that kind of pinky pigment. And it, again, really cool. It pretty much says that these proanthocyanidins, which we call vitamin P, work synergistically with vitamin C to promote capillary stability. And the leaves and the flowers contain high concentration of these active constituents. They stabilize your capillaries in your peripheral cardiovascular. So the whole cardiovascular system is supported by the whole plant Hawthorne, not just the heart, but the heart really gets its tonic. The overall number one general cardiotonic nutrition for the heart is Hawthorne, leaf, berry, and flower. For aged hearts, geriatric or stressed aged hearts, or a worn out heart, that happens. Hypertension, it works best for arterial type hypertension. Coronary insufficiency, especially due to age. The myocardium it's a muscle. Your heart's a massive muscle. And as as you age, it starts to get tired. Also, you can have contagious diseases that attack the heart. One, Lyme disease, that particular spirochete attacks the pericardium around the heart, and Hawthorne is very much indicated in those kinds of cases. Right heart failure, damage to coronary arteries, angina pectoris, valvular deficiency. So when the valves start, as you age, your valves, they start to wear out. Hawthorne is indicated. If you have hyperlipidemia, where you have cholesterol or plaque formation in the arteries on the heart, Hawthorne is indicated. Hawthorne extract in clinical trials has been found to relieve symptoms of coronary heart disease, including influence on stress tolerance, and works very effectively in compared to even ACE inhibitors. Pretty incredible. I've seen these double-blind placebo clinical trials on Hawthorne in more advanced coronary disease, and they're spectacular. Hawthorne also has collagen stabilizing action. It assists in healing hemorrhoids, sprains, arthritis, varicose veins, and insufficiency in the veins and the arteries or the capillaries of the cardiovascular system. It's used in traditional Chinese medicine in anti-obesity formulas because it helps with digestion, and it also helps with digestion of fats. So people who get dyspepsia or bloating, gastric issues in the middle part of the body, kind of you eat a meal and you just get bloated and you feel stuck in there. Hawthorne is indicated. It is the most widely prescribed cardiac tonic plant medicine by herbalists, bar none. Someone says heart issues, it's Hawthorne.
It's first
I mean,
thing to think about.
it's the first thing we think about. It's been shown to exert mild blood pressure lowering effects. The effects of Hawthorne are slow but steady. So it's so safe you can take it as a tonic. It is a tonic. So take it daily, take it for long periods of time.
Yeah.
For people who have history of, cardiac surgery,
Insufficiency.
Oh my God. So due to the high content of these flavonoids that we've been talking about, the OPCs in Crataegus demonstrate incredible mechanisms of action in antioxidants, great for the blood flow, increases blood flow, enhances oxygen flow and utilization by the heart itself. It has a very positive effect on the contraction of the myocytes of the heart itself. These flavonoids exert considerable collagen stabilizing effects. So a lot of people say, well, why don't you just take collagen? Well, sometimes it's about getting your body to make it correctly. And that's those flavonoids really initiate an impetus for your body to start manufacturing the collagen. So just taking collagen isn't necessarily enough. You have to utilize what you're taking in. And that's what hawthorn berries do. Hawthorn berries and leaf together are pretty incredible. I wanted to share some research on Crataegus. Where did I put it? I think here it is. All right. Research indicates administration of Crataegus provides subjective and objective benefits in individuals with signs and symptoms of congestive heart failure. Over a period of 8 weeks, supplementation with Crataegus, and it was 250 milligram extract, resulted in a clear improvement in the performance of the heart. Patients reported improvement in subjective symptoms such as reduced they had shortness of breath, they had edema at the ankle, they had reduced physical performance. And when they took the Crataegus, that increased overall. In a separate study of patients with stage 2 cardiac insufficiency, oral supplementation of Crataegus improved blood pressure, heart rate, and the change in heart rate in response to exercise.
And remember, Crataegus basically is the same as saying Hawthorne. So what you're going to see on the label is Hawthorne, not Crataegus.
Right. Probably. Hawthorne extract is advocated as an oral treatment option for chronic heart failure. Also, the German commissioning approved the use of extracts of Hawthorne leaf with the flower in patients suffering from heart failure graded stage 2, according to the New York Heart Association. Gold standard study. Patients already receiving optimal pharmacological therapy were eligible for randomization if their left ventricle function was markedly impaired. Patients were then randomized to 2 years treatment with Hawthorne or placebo. The primary endpoint was time to first cardiac event. So sudden cardiac death, death due to progressive cardiac heart failure, fatal myocardial infarction, or hospitalization for the progression of their cardiac heart disease. A total of 2,681 patients. Mean age was 60 years, 84% were men, 44% were class 3 cardiac failure. Their left ventricle ejection fraction was under 24%. They were randomized and evaluated at all times. So the Hawthorne extract was superior to placebo in terms of first cardiac event, but without reaching statistical significance. So for the first 18 months after, they were in this randomized trial and they were at class 3, meaning their hearts are failing. For the first 18 months of the Hawthorne treatment, deaths due to cardiac causes were reduced significantly by 20% or more.
That's
unbelievable. Okay. And the 1,442 reduced sudden cardiac deaths in particular. So out of the total group, just being on Hawthorne, even in a class 3 situation of heart failure, their death related to that heart failure was reduced.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, it was reduced up to between 25 and 35%. So a lot of people lived longer. They had some quality of life. And that was all due to one little herb sitting in a bush with some thorns called crataegus or hawthorn, berry and leaf. Pretty extraordinary. It's been used as a digestive and cardiotonic for thousands of years. So marry it with Albizzia.
Yeah, and you can also marry it with like reishi mushroom, because reishi mushroom was shown to enhance the myocytes of the cardiac muscles.
Yeah. I mean, you put it together with some of these incredible tonics and it will deliver. So this is a great time of year to spend a little extra time on thinking about your heart, not just the structure and the physical part of the heart, but the Shen, the emotional part of your heart, and put those two things together. Settle your heart, make your heart more open, softer.
Bring your Shen, bring your spirit back into balance.
And protect your heart. Give your heart a little bit of extra oomph so that it can keep the rest of you
pumping.
running.
Yes, keep on pumping.
So anyway, it was really fun. We love our favorite things. Today was Albizzia and Hawthorne, and hopefully next time we'll continue with either. We're hoping that our next episode will be an interview for Naturals in the Know. So we're looking forward to that. And then we're going to finish out the year pretty strong. So please like us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, our podcast. Let us know what you'd like to hear about for the upcoming year in 2023. We have some fun ideas. We're probably going to talk about cleansing in 2023. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we're going to continue with our naturals in the news like we always do. There's so much in the news on food and herbs and nutraceuticals. So we want to share what's hot and new for all of you.
All right. And just to remind you, because Nancy won't do this for herself, but I just want to remind you that Nan has a complementary and alternative medical health and herbal clinic that she's had for more than 30 years. And she focuses on difficult to treat conditions and has also been a spokesperson and an educator in the natural products industry for over 27 years for some of the most reputable and most well-known companies in the industry. She has a broad background. She is, like I said, a graduate of the East-West School of Herbal Studies and one of their instructors now in their annual symposium when they get together for a week. So she really does know what she's talking about, and she has my deepest respects as an herbalist and as an herbal practitioner.
Well, and I want to remind people that Tom is no slouch himself either. And, he has an incredible background that goes way back to 1970, all the way to Hawaii, which of course I miss terribly. He was an organic farmer there and worked with local practitioners. Actually, they were doctors. He worked with local doctors making fresh organic juices for their patients. And since then, for the past 30 years, he's worked for two very large and very well-known reputable companies as their herbal educator and trainer. So, and he has incredible stories. He really is the herbal storyteller. And his stories are memorable, and boy, do they make things stick. Sometimes when he's teaching, I just sit there kind of dumbfounded, listening, thinking, wow, what a great way to remember that herb. So we're really grateful that we have Tom here on our podcast. All right, everyone, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you for Thank you for continuing to listen, share with your friends and family.
Absolutely.
And we will see you soon. like. All right. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, everyone. Until next time, I'm Nan.
And I'm Tom.
We'll have more great topics and guests in the very near future. So join us right here in 2 weeks as the Supplement Super Sleuth
and the Herbal Storyteller take another deep dive into the fascinating world of the natural products industry.
See you later.